Coming up on today's podcast, energy, minerals and lifestyle tweaks that on first sight or first sound might sound small but can have a dramatic difference. Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality and motivation. Yeah, welcome back. I'm Tony, walking around London at the moment and recording the intro to this podcast and having now fully recovered from Glastonbury. And it took me quite a while, it's got to be said. I mean, the thing is, in my hard living days, 2 nights camping was absolutely nothing. And it's not like I was going crazy on the booze front or anything like that. I don't know, it was just 2 nights of partying. But apart from that, it wasn't particularly wild. But yeah, I'm just going to have to admit the fact that I'm a bit of a lightweight these days and I need my bed and my blackout curtains and blue blocking glasses and mouth tape and all of the rest of the things you hear me talk about on this podcast. It's quite windy today as I walk around London, so I hope you can hear me all right. But anyway, what an incredible experience, what an uplifting experience. I think I said on the podcast last week, I did share it here on the way home, actually, when I got home and watching it on Sunday night at home, watching Guy Garvey from Elbow singing. And it just made me quite emotional at what a lovely weekend we'd had, not just because it's very special for me and Faith to spend a weekend together, just in the pursuit of having fun and not having to worry about looking after a small human, which was really lovely, and I'm very grateful to my mum, who stepped in with the childcare for the weekend, which was just so nice. So that alone was amazing, but then also hanging out with friends and this incredible intake of culture, and I don't think it's too sort of hippy-dippy to say love and energy. There was just such a good vibe about the place. So yeah, all my reflections are in those 2 Glastonbury podcasts if you haven't heard them, and I hope you enjoy them. Today's podcast was recorded before that with Barton Scott. Barton and I met at the Health Optimisation Summit, and Tim Gray, my friend at Tim Biohacker, recommended Barton to me and actually sat us next to each other at the VIP dinner on the Friday night before the Health Optimisation Summit started. And he said, "That was deliberate, mate. I knew you'd get on," and we did. And he specialises in minerals which are administered to the system in nanoparticles, and he's got a very interesting background because he's sort of got a science background and he's applied that to supplements. So I think his work is excellent. We just got on very well, and he came to our studios at 180 Strand to record this podcast. So it's sort of about energy and supplements, but it's also about all sorts of things because he's living quite an interesting life. As far as I can tell, he's not much in an office. He's just spent 6 weeks in Brazil, 6 weeks in Europe. I wonder where he's going next. But anyway, here he is, Barton Scott on Zestology. We're recording. Barton, how are you doing?
So great to be here. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, we're in this amazing building, and the place I've found to record is a tiny little cubby hole of a sort of cupboard.
Yeah.
With a slightly tinny sound.
Sure.
But it's a good building, isn't it?
We're here below the stairs. No,
Yeah,
that's not
pretty
quite
much.
true. No, this is a great spot.
Yeah, good, yeah. So, how's London? You enjoying it?
London's fantastic. Yeah, I see what the fuss is about.
The summit was just so good, wasn't it?
So good.
And you and I met, we were sitting next to each other at the dinner on the Friday night.
Yeah.
And most of the evening I was involved in a very deep conversation with someone on the other side of me. So I'm glad we actually got a chance to chat. I was slightly struggling to tear myself away to chat to you, but I did. And I'm very pleased that we managed to chat.
Everyone was so interesting. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, it was a great time, great dinner. I see why people love it. I'm gonna hold this like that, just so we don't get any Sure.
any sort of like clunkiness. The summit itself, was it a success in terms of you exhibiting? You spoke at the summit as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a great time. It was worth the flight. I told everyone, I said, I hope you got something out of this, because I came all the way back from the US via Brazil to come here, so a couple long haul flights. So it was worthwhile. But I felt like it was the best talk I've ever given. For some people that watched it, they can go back and watch the recording or find it on the site, I think, even now. But I felt really good. Just flow state, you know a lot about that.
Yeah, so. I do. Unfortunately, I spoke on the Saturday, I think, on the Saturday morning, and you spoke on the Sunday, right? And I couldn't come and see you because I was presenting on the other stage at the same time. But I think part of my flow state does involve I mean, I wouldn't say it's an unpleasant feeling, but I have to sort of get myself into this certain quite adrenalized state to be at my best. And it's not actually a particularly pleasant state to be in.
Right. Yeah.
So I think as time goes on with, as I said to somebody over the weekend, when I was working in TV full time, I was on 4 times a week, 4 hours a day for 15 years. After you've done that for a while, you don't get nervous going on TV. But it took me about 4 years to get to that state. Yeah. So if I do 100 of those presentations next year, I'll feel pretty good about it. A bit like a comedian, doing the same set again and again. Right. And then you can hone the good bits and ditch the bad bits.
Yeah, certainly. And I love that you came by the booth and tried some of the products. You got some great video. For anyone listening, they go back and check Tony's profile. He posted it there. It's funny.
Well, I was walking past and you were chatting to a couple of my friends and they said, "Oh, try this." And you're like, hold it under the tongue.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's like a tequila shot.
Yeah.
So what is the product?
Yeah.
So I want to talk more about the business in a second. What is the product?
So that's called Upgraded Charge. I called it that because a friend said, it's a lot like electricity entering my body is how it feels. I said, yeah, I think charge is the right word for this. So it's the really the only electrolyte that you'd ever need, and it's you can find it at upgradedformulas.com. You can find it Functional Self if you just Google those guys. They're great. They distribute a bunch of awesome U.S. products to a lot of Europe. So.
Yeah, and about 50% of our listeners are US based, and about 50
cool.
UK. So
great to know.
So. No, it is good, and I felt it was a bit like doing a tequila shot. So maybe I should put tequila in it next time, or put it in tequila.
I wouldn't say how I might know that it's great together, but I hear it's great.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah,
there's a little bit of salt on the rim, and then
perfect.
Yeah.
Today's podcast partner is Sensate. It is an incredibly easy, fast and accessible way to relieve stress. And you may or may not have tried Sensate before, but this month Sensate have got something very exciting going on because they've actually been doing particularly well and it's time for them to expand. And they got in touch with me and said, would I, in July, mention the fact, it's getting very windy right now, so I hope you can hear me okay, would I mention the fact that they are crowdfunding their new investment round. So they're speaking to a load of big fish and some much, much smaller fish like me who might be interested in investing in Sensate. So you can go to wefunder.com/Sensate, wefunder.com/Sensate if you're interested in a company that has shipped over 18 million Sensate pebbles worldwide. 18 million. They're backed by venture investors. They've got world-class retailers, including Harrods and Selfridges, and obviously places like Amazon as well. And it's just a brilliant product. It was mentioned by Forbes fairly recently. If you look at the reviews, people really love it. So if you go to wefunder.com/Sensate, there will be a minority of people on this podcast who might think, I want to invest in that. And you can go there and get all the full details. And if you're slightly less of a baller biohacker, but you're still interested in meditation and relaxation, then you might want to go to their site, which is getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton. Use the code Tony for £20, $25 off, and let me know how you go with the Sensate Pebble that 18 million other people have used as well. Okay, so if you want to go crowdfunding, then you go to wefunder.com/Sensate. That is it. Back to the show. So, it sounds like it was a successful show for you and
it was so
for
fun.
your company as well.
Yeah, you met great people, yourself included, and thought, wow, what a great event. So thankful to be here and be able to contribute.
Yeah, and I know you, by background, you obviously run this company that does some supplements, some testing, and is potentially going to expand as well.
Yeah.
By background, you're a chemist. Tell me and everyone listening why you went from chemist, working for a big corporation, to chemist who's going to get involved into the health space and start out on your own.
Yeah, so if you can imagine just growing up with parents that you really loved, hopefully that's the case, and feeling just in general powerless as you watched one of them just lose all of her health. So my mother, in this case, we got very unhealthy in her 60s thanks to medication more than anything. She was quite vivacious otherwise. Helped her slim down.
So it was medication that did it, wasn't
it? Yeah, it really was. Yeah, like I shouldn't name any names, but there's definitely some medication that medication in general is added toxicity burden on the body. The body has to then detox, and the payoff is that hopefully the temporary suffering is greater than whatever you're trying to sweep under the rug and calm down. But our body's always talking to us, and anytime we're inadvertently shutting off those switches and alarms and saying, no thank you, I'd rather have it just quiet in here, no alarm bells, nothing on the dash of your car, so to speak, that's blinking saying service engine soon, essentially, via headache, via, for women, painful PMS periods, via cramps, via constipation. It's our body talking to us in a language that many of us are not very fluent in. And we think, oh, well, a little bit of pain, particularly in the U.S., the prerogative is, let's actually unleash nuclear warheads at this pain in the form of, just numbing it away. And of course, there's a deficiency that is at the root of that. And the most powerful, most important deficiencies to test for, it turns out, and correct, are mineral deficiencies, not vitamin specifically, but specifically mineral deficiencies, because these are the collection of elements throughout the universe that particularly our planet and us individually are made of. It's that periodic table in chemistry that some of us hated and some of us were like, it's kind of cool. And I think at first I didn't really, I thought, how important is that? But yeah, I got a minor in chemistry, did all the organic chemistry, physical, all of these things, and really loved the connection between that and cooking, that and supplements, that and how we are able to show up through each day, the amount of energy we have. And to me, the connection between how much energy you have is so incredibly clear that that is the deterministic factor in whether or not you achieve the goals and whether or not you even have the confidence to dream big or dream at all, really. Specifically, actually, question for everyone listening is, do you remember your dreams often? Is it at least a couple times a week? If the answer is no, you likely have a magnesium deficiency. And this is something I learned in my first consultation. Luckily, I had a great one doing a hair analysis, which you talked about. And Though the other factor, and I was doing this for myself, my mother, my girlfriend at the time, her father, realized, oh, we're all deficient in things we're taking. Supplements we're already supplementing that I had us on. And these were good brands. These were quality brands that did third-party testing and things like that. The fact wasn't that there was some, error going on there. It was just that the size of the cell, the red blood cell, was 5 times smaller than the particle size of that actual nutrient or any of those nutrients, or even larger. Maybe it was 8 times larger, or 8 times smaller in the case of the red blood cell. So that math didn't work. Your body had to depend on the digestive system to break it down.
Right.
So, it's what our process allows for is putting the basketball in the hoop, so to speak, at a very microparticle size on a nanoscale, and making that also really stable. Right. So that's and we just have this unique way of doing that allows all of our products to be absorbed super well. Case in point, the founder of the summit, Tim, who's a great friend of both of us, he sent his mom, or his mum here in Britain, the manganese after he had this great experience, and they both raised their core body temp. So for anyone listening, this is like, are you cold all the time? This is the general speak of that. Do you wear a jacket, or bring a jacket around with you year round? Which, in London, that's one thing, but in warmer parts of the world, it's just not necessary. Shouldn't be necessary.
Always cold.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So what do I need? Your manganese.
So that's manganese,
Okay.
and also iodine or iodine, depending on where you are in the world, and large doses of iodine usually, as well. And there's of course, test, don't guess. Is our philosophy. We actually own that trademark because it's so fundamental to what we do, not just great supplements. So anyway, to go back to that, I realized we weren't absorbing these supplements. I had gone to school for exactly the chemistry, the math, the thermodynamics, the physics of absorption, of taking a process that's industrial and improving it such that the outcome, the product in this case, is much more absorbable, and you don't have to do all the work. Your digestive system doesn't. So
wow, that's really cool. That's what this space needs more of, actually. People coming with deep expertise from other areas and applying it to biohacking and health.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we still need all the other things like time outside and all the things, and the technology and the equipment. But this is the most foundational piece, I believe, because, like I said, we're the collection of that element section that we know is the periodic table. So that's what we're testing for in hair. And then I thought, wouldn't it be, really important if we could reverse those deficiencies, not just identify them? Yeah. And it turns out you can't do that unless you're absorbing enough of those things. Otherwise, you sort of stay at that steady level, because why? You're living your life. As you're listening to this right now, you're going through your day, and you're maybe rushing to an appointment, or you're hopefully taking time to eat and slow down and breathe and have a moment to reflect here and there. Whatever you're doing, you're burning minerals, you're burning other nutrients, but particularly these that are water soluble, you need to ingest each day. They're critical for every single bodily function that you can ever imagine. And then some that we have very little insight to even now, but we know that one thing's for sure, we're a collection of those elements, and when we look at ratios of those elements, not just are you low in a thing, but how does that relate to another element in the body? So not just are you low in magnesium, but are you low in sodium, or what's that ratio like? Yeah. And that turns out to be adrenal function, emotional health, just that one ratio.
So you do the tests, and then what happens after that?
Well, you get insight through a consultation with a nutritionist on metabolism, on adrenal function, on thyroid function.
Right. And when you pay for the test, that's part of the test, or is that added on afterwards? Or?
Yeah, so we have different options. So we don't force anyone in any direction. So they can
post them all out and do it all remotely as well?
Mm-hmm.
So people can do it wherever they are in the world?
Yes,
right.
Yeah. I knew it had to be, to help a lot of people, we had to not just have a physical space, but have a place online where you can come get your test. And really I'm about democratizing that as much as possible, and that's what we've done, so that you don't have to ask anyone's permission to order this test. And although it's reimbursable through HSA, like health savings plans.
No, we can't do that here. I'll tell you that much.
No, but just investing in your health is the biggest ROI I've ever found, right? Because then that begets more energy, and then that, like we were talking about earlier, there's all your goals. There's, well, will you start that thing that you have been meaning to start? Because now you have the confidence, because you can tell you have the energy. So, sleeping well, all these things.
Well, and this podcast is all about energy. You know, I started it because I didn't have any for a long time. And it's just really interesting hearing you link minerals to energy. I've long thought that that's the case with me, and actually I burn through minerals. I take a lot of hydration every day, and if I don't, oh my god, I really feel it. I suspect there might be some adrenal stuff going on there as well, but it's just great to hear you link those two things together, because I think that for me that is a big piece of the puzzle.
It's massive. It was just incredibly important for me as well. The interesting thing about all these ratios is that when you start to see how these things link, you get to see a priority system. So I always try to support someone's adrenals before their thyroid. So people can reach out to us on the website, and they can get their test, their consultation, and then from that take supplements that you actually know you need, and ones that will actually work. And then, you get a bit of advice on food as well. Like, hey, your calcium, for example, is very high. You don't actually want to supplement vitamin D for the next 90 days because that is so detrimental based on how important it is that your calcium level is very high. It's actually causing cellular interference and absorption issues with all these other nutrients. So and there's so much else, right? This balancing act of, well, you're taking vitamin D, you should be taking magnesium with it. You should also take boron with it. It's just all these different things, K2. So we'll put out a product soon that's in R&D right now. I've been working on for a better part of a year. And I think it'll be the best vitamin D supplement because of absorption, yes, and also because of the entourage effect of all these other nutrients that you need to properly utilize that hormone. So I love hearing about that side of the business. And then from a business perspective, I bet you must meet people. I know from our chat on Friday night, a lot of the great and the good in Austin. Do you sort of say, hey, I have a bottle of magnesium and see how it goes? And if Joe Rogan was to start talking about your products, that'd be it, wouldn't it? Yeah. And I know a few people that know Joe and have been on the show and things. So I think that's a inevitable thing that will happen. You're in the right place there, aren't you, in Austin? It's a very dynamic environment. Yeah, and I've called it home since 2012, on and off, and I just always felt at home there. But it's great to be here in Europe as well, and just how magical it is to explore history and all the things, the great food. Particularly important. Not the great weather at the moment, but everything else. Yeah. Well, today's lovely, but yesterday was on and off a bit. So then if we just expand it out from sort of energy and minerals and testing to more generally, I'm loving the way that you're living your life at the moment. You spent 6 weeks in Brazil, which we're going to go and have lunch now, and I want to talk to you about Brazil, because I've been three or four times to Brazil, and it's just wild, isn't it? It's so much fun. And then you're going to Croatia after this, you're going to Italy after that. How does that tie in
with, the digital nomad lifestyle is very appealing to a lot of people. But to actually work, you've got to do more than just look at your screen all day, whether you're sitting in a coffee shop in Venice or you're in your office in Austin.
Right. So for me, that starts with transcendental meditation, and in the morning, that's one of the don't budge on type things, and that gives me the clarity to focus and the mindfulness to know that I can work for an hour and a half and then I need to take a break, instead of just sitting there and going, oh, come on, let's keep going. It's like, no, get up, go for a walk, and in the process enjoy your life more, but also find more creativity and more flow that way. So that's particularly important. One other thing I'd like to mention is, to go back to the science of things, is just the hormone perspective of everything is so incredibly important. But how many of you listening right now can name the building blocks of hormones? Very few people can put their hand up, even in this very well studied group that I was presenting to Saturday, and turns out the most fundamental part of that, beyond good fats, is minerals. And without knowing your minerals, without knowing those ratios I was alluding to earlier, you don't have optimal hormones, and then you don't have that clarity, that function that you need in that coffee shop or Airbnb, wherever you are in the world, renting an office temporarily here and there. So those things go in together, and it's really how this becomes your personality too, because it's if your hormones aren't where they need to be, then it dictates what you say yes and no to, and how much energy you have, how you show up, how much enjoyment you have, all of this. So it's pretty correlated. But thanks for that. I think that this is the sort of lifestyle I've been working toward for a long time, and thankfully I have a great team, and we're at a point where I can do these intentional sort of times away, and in some cases be more creative because of it. So, And there's also work reasons that I'm meeting up with different places in the world.
Don't try and pretend you're a work trip. Right now, you are just having fun.
Just having fun.
Half
really.
our podcast, and then you're off for lunch.
Yeah, exactly. So rough day, Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not buying the fact this is a full work trip.
Oh, it absolutely isn't. Yeah, but just in case any.
Any of your employees are listening.
Right.
Very good. Yeah, and actually, I'd love to chat to you more about business as well, because one of the things we're really enjoying, being a very small business starting up, is creating our own culture. And that really, sometimes explicitly writing policies, and then we do walking meetings, and we have various retrospectives every week. And I'm really keen to build a culture, and you coming in and talking to us as a team about what you do, all of those sort of things make a really fun working environment, and very different from the sort of working environments I've been used to. You wouldn't think it, but media tends to be fairly unreconstructed, old school print journalism type harsh environment where you don't get any feedback unless you mess up, and then you hear about it. So it's great to hear about different ways of working and styles of working.
I've had some terrible bosses, and I've learned a lot through those examples. I've had a couple really good ones too, and learned a lot through those examples. And the blend of that, I think, is I don't ask anyone to do anything I wouldn't do myself, and I've, at this point in the company, done every job. Yeah. So So now I can lead from the back, can lead from the front, wherever's required.
Great. Yeah.
I think that's important. Like in choosing a work environment is remembering all aspects of that.
Yeah. Now, what about?
But yeah, you have a great environment here.
It's a good place here, isn't it? Yeah. This is
great.
We're at Soho House in the Strand, and the Soho Works, and it's just it's a very creative building, isn't it?
Yeah, it would help if it was beautiful, but no, it's gorgeous.
It's known as brutalist architecture
Mm-hmm.
from the outside. It's amazing from the outside, but I think it's just about as listed. Do you know what listed means? Mm-hmm. When a building is listed, it means you can't alter it from the outside at all, and you have to go through a lot of processes before. And because it is such an example of this type of architecture, from the outside they'll never change it. From the inside, they've obviously done this with it. But so, what is one book that you would recommend, and one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
God, there's so many good books. It really depends, I sort of gave myself an unofficial MBA from 22 to 28 when I started the company then, and now it's been about 7 years. So it depends on what you're looking to learn, obviously, but something that's broadly applicable to everyone is just I think Tao Te Ching is just marvelously impactful. It's different every time you read it, and you can open it to any page and read something that's just poetic, but also transcendent and important, and wherever you are in your life. So that's a great one. I like the one thing, I think, for people that are in this world of struggling to focus.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
the one thing.
Yeah, that's a great, because it's mindful of today's world as well, and they both are. They're I think particularly timeless with the first one, and then sleeping really well. That's important. Dark room, wear an eye shade, eye mask, and then just air quality, water quality. Be thinking about those things. But sleep really is the dominating factor. So our upgraded magnesium has made a big difference in my life. I quite literally couldn't do all the things and have the lifestyle and the clarity while traveling without, frankly, a bunch of our products that are just, they're foundational, they're functional to the energy, to the sleep, to the being able to be present with people, and also enjoying the time off, like you said, a half-hour podcast, and then enjoy the rest of the day. Other commitments today too, and a good workout, and all these things. It's about finding balance and having the discipline, but it's hard to have discipline when you don't have the willpower because you don't have the energy. All of those things are finite, so these things go together. But we're doing a sleep study on that product with over 200 doctors, and the results so far are incredible. We've increased deep sleep, which is really the lead domino for people to focus on. If you can just track your deep sleep, whichever method you're using, whatever technology you're using, and see that baseline before and after, and work on anything it takes to improve that, and then you're really far along. But that's the one product I would have people try.
Great.
More than anything. But yeah. Yep.
So where can people find out more about you and everything that you guys do?
Sure. For me personally, Ask Barton on Instagram, ASK and BARTON, and then Upgraded Formulas, upgraded with an ED, formulas with nest.com. And then you can Google Functional Self as well if you're in Europe, and have a pretty quick delivery. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Should we go and have some lunch?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
We'll do a return chat. I'm hoping to come to Austin again at some point. I'll find an excuse.
Yeah.
So thank you for this, and we'll chat again soon.
Drop in, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. That is it for today's podcast. Thank you to Barton. This episode is brought to you by Sensate, an incredibly easy, fast and accessible way to reduce stress. And as you know, I use Sensate. I absolutely love it. You can head to the Sensate site, getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton. If you use the code Tony on the Sensate site, you will get £20 or $25 off, I think. £20 or $25. You'll get a nice chunk off. Anyway, use the code Tony. and it is really good. And since I've been talking about Sensate, I know a lot of people have invested in one and let me know that they love it. So if you do, then please give me your feedback on it. But now Sensate are crowdfunding as well, which is very exciting. You can be involved and own a bit of the business. So the people at Sensate got in touch with me and said, look, can you mention in July the fact that we're crowdfunding, because some of your listeners might want to get involved in actually investing in the business. So they've got they've sent me all sorts of interesting stats on their revenue. 2.8 million in sales last year, 363% annual growth rate. Forbes called it a genius device, and 18 million Sensate pebbles have been delivered globally. Wow, so a lot of pebbles. That's what they call it, a Sensate pebble. So if you're interested in investing, you can go to wefunder.com/Sensate. It's wefunder.com/Sensate. I've just actually been rooting around on that site today before recording this, and I'm considering getting involved myself. I wouldn't call myself a massive baller when it comes to investment, but I'm certainly tempted. So wefunder.com/Sensate if you want to get involved in investing in the company. And if you want to just get one, the code is Tony on their site, getsensate.com/Tony Wrighton. Right, that's it from me. Have a good one, and I'll speak to you next time.